I believe that we're going to see NFTs tied to real world assets in a meaningful way. It's digitizing that culture for the first time in a meaningful way. Because if you think culture has been an asset class for a long time, you could say the very first X-Men comic is a way to own part of that history of Marvel and X-Men, right? Or baseball cards were, there were lots of collectibles, or, even you could say things like a limited edition handbag that sells for $50,000 or more, right? Like there's these like very limited drop things that have happened and been manufactured, but this is a way to create something that has proven provenance, that is durable, indestructible, transferable, and hopefully with royalties enabled, allows for the artist or the creator to receive some of that upside, indefinitely. So it has a lot of additional benefits that we never had before on the digital side that are now cemented into the blockchain, which is just super exciting to me.
And also, I love the fact that community has become the business model. It's a very different way because you both build it together and you participate together.
Mm-hmm. Which was the upside together. And yeah.
If you think Absolutely. About Facebook, right? The shareholders got rich and we all got monetized. And we got the utility, essentially, and that was it. But here you've got everybody participating in the upside, and you get the utility as part of that upside. That's really powerful as a kind of behavioral economics model because it's viral by definition almost.
Yes, absolutely. You nailed it. It turns every single one of these holders of yours, if things are going well, into natural brand advocates that go out and they are your marketing and BD extra heads. Like, it's not to say you shouldn't have those positions internally as an organization, but they can go out and serve and create. I've got a massive Moonbirds book sitting 10 feet away from me that one of our fans created, and it's a hardbound, like, amazing book that they took all of our assets and created, and it's just like it's a fantastic addition to our ecosystem and something that eventually we will. Thank you, Mal. It's being handed to me right now, like this thing right here. So eventually this thing will go to print, and it's got just like beautiful assets all inside of it. And it's just like unbelievably created that someone did without even talking to us. And like, that's powerful, right? Like that's true fans coming through and extending a brand, working on your behalf and taking your assets and extending it in new and creative ways. And I don't know, to me that feels special. It feels different.
Yeah, I remember, both of us have been on the Tim Ferriss podcast, me by not being fair, by interviewing Tim and then getting on it. But you got on, you were the first ever guest. But I remember when I was building Real Vision, not knowing fuck all about building a company. I came out of finance. And so I would listen to Tim and people like you and think, okay, how do I do this? And one of the great episodes was Kevin Kelly, 1,000 True Fans.
Yes.
I don't think Kevin realized that was really the launch of what Web3 would become, was That's realizing that, well, even you with Proof, it's 1,000 True Fans, essentially. Mm-hmm. And from that, you can scale because they want to help.
I mean, that number is really no accident. I mean, I had heard of 1,000 True Fans, and we were trying to figure out what number we would launch the Proof Collective Pass with. And, wanted it to be something that was large enough and maintainable, and when you held events, you could still have enough people show up. And there was a back and forth on what number we eventually landed on. But yeah, if you can nail that and have 100 truly engaged and connected and amazing advocates for what you're building, it is so powerful. And so I'm a huge fan of that model.
So talk me through starting Proof. I mean, it's been an enormous success and a great idea, basically creating a community around, what can we do together in this space? How can we share ideas and opportunities and that kind of stuff? What made you think about it, of doing it? Because it was slightly different to what anything else was happening at the time. It was more of a club.
Yeah, I had seen that there was a need for high quality NFT information online at that time, because a lot of the focus on NFTs had been around, well, and it still is today, around how can we make that quick 3 to 5x? How can I get in here, buy, sell, leave someone else with the bag? And I was like, well, there's so much more going on here in terms of the creativity, the new artists entering the space that are defining new genres such as glitch or generative art. And it was clear that we needed an outlet to have high quality information. And so we launched with a podcast, the Proof podcast. That grew and just really exploded onto the scene. And then I was making a lot of relationships with artists that were coming on the show and thinking like, how can I take this audience that is along for this ride, that believes in this art, and connect them to these artists in an interesting way? And so, when we launched the Proof Collective Pass, the promise was a connection to artists. So if you go into the Discord, you see many of those blue chip artists being in there. And then also, working with them to do limited edition drops or fun things that showcase their artwork and get it in front of this audience. So, out of that was born, Moonbirds was birthed out of that. And
talk me through that as well. So that was that, again, you're writing, okay, Yuga had done the similar kind of step. You start with a Genesis, get something really, I guess, the whole Genesis idea, and then build from that. Why a PFP? Which is the opposite of what Proof Collective was.
Yeah, well, we realized that as fun as the collective was and the club and the membership was, the graphic we used for that NFT was a membership card. And there's no one on earth that wants to have, maybe except for the official American Express account or Visa or something, that wants to have a card as their icon on Twitter. And so, we realized, hey, let's do something that we can give away to our members and let them be proud to represent as their kind of PFP, to show that they're excited about Proof and what we're building. We didn't really think it was what happened next would have happened, which was just this insane amount of interest that we couldn't have predicted. So the idea was, let's build a fun utility-based PFP that we can do rewards and events and little fun things for over time. But honestly, before we had initially priced it, if you had asked me, I would have thought I would have traded it a couple ETH. I didn't think it would go as crazy as it did. So that was a big surprise to us.
Does it not give you a terrifying sense of responsibility? I know I listened to you talking to Tim recently about this, the promised utility. Mm-hmm. And yes, look, you're trying to build a business. You're trying to build something bigger. But it's kind of terrifying. Although, as an entrepreneur, you kind of do that to your shareholders anyway. You have to promise them the future. But how do you think about that? Because you have the direct relationship with a bunch of these people.
Yeah.
You kind of now owe them utility and some magic somewhere.
It's especially tough because you have a little bit of every persona inside of your ecosystem, meaning that if you look at the holders of Moonbirds, many of them have held since day one, and they've just kept theirs locked up. And if that's the case, and if you either got it for free because you were a Proof Collective member, or you minted it at the mint price, you're still, several times over up. Your Moonbird is still worth much more than what the initial, mint price was. And that's always been the case since mint, we were very fortunate to be in that position. Many projects drop underneath mint price, and it's horrible. But that said, we saw just an insane skyrocket, which was unpredictable. So we went from 2.5, up to 40 some ETH within, like a week and a half or something. It was something really ridiculous, or a couple of weeks in total. And, you had people buying in at those higher prices. And so eventually, when things come back to reality, you have some people that are upside down. You have some people that still believe in it, want to hold for the long term. And then you have some people that are somewhere in the middle, that they're buying, today or yesterday, or, so they have new faith in the project. And so you get all these different types of stakeholders and people that are along this journey and this ride with you. And when you meet and you go to a meetup, you have people in these different positions that you run into, right? Some people can be just super excited because they, purchased 2 Moonbirds at mint and sold one for 25 ETH or whatever, and they're letting the next one ride. I've heard that many times, or you have someone that's really severely underwater, and they probably, this isn't the only project they're underwater. And they went and they bought too many NFTs, and, they kind of over indexed on it. And they got caught up in the hype of it all. And it's like, I have a lot of, sympathy for that type of collector as well.
Hey visionaries, thank you for tuning in. For more free crypto content like this, head over to realvision.com/crypto. You'll get early access to the most brilliant minds in the space to cut through the noise, get in-depth analysis, and get you ahead of the curve with unbiased insights.